In my 20s, I started getting sick. I was admitted a couple of times, maybe 2-3 times at Nairobi Hospital, but nothing really came out of it. My mom was like, well, there's nothing wrong. Go home, and a few days later, a few weeks later, I would go back. I would pass out. I was always fatigued. Fast forward, I come to the US. I started getting the same symptoms I was getting at home. Fatigue, my eyes also started changing color, and I just wanted to always be seated because my legs hurt so much. My joints were hurting. And again, I didn't think much of it. I thought it was the weather change and also the weight that I had gained. After the summer camp, I moved to Metro Atlanta, where my cousin was attending medical school. And so I told him of my symptoms, and he was concerned. But then I had started limping, and he thought it was best I see a doctor. It also happened that the job I had gotten required me to get physical examination. So I head to the hospital, and they ran tests, and I'm sent on my way home. In a few days, they would let me know the results. So I get in, I check in, and I've gone back for my results by myself. They guide me to a room that was it felt so cold, but I figured I'll be here for a few minutes. It's fine. So the doctor walks in with his colleague, and with what I know now, that's not always a good thing. And he proceeds to ask me if I have family here and how I was feeling. How are my symptoms? I'm like, well, other than what I had told you, nothing has changed. He says to me, based on your symptoms and your blood work, we think you have leukemia. So I said to him, so what vitamins do I need to take? He looks at his colleague, and they must have thought I was a high school dropout because I was completely clueless. So they asked me, what do I know about cancer? And I say, you die. If you have cancer, that is death. And they both are in shock because they didn't expect that answer. Anyway, so after a few conversations, they decide it's best I talk to a psychiatrist, being that I was like, this one, there's no hope. This one will not make it. So I go back to the front desk, and the nurse says they would give me a call with the psychiatrist I needed to see. So I'm like, okay. And so home I go. So, of course, I never went back because Google was going to help me find vitamins, right? So I didn't need to go back. So I didn't pay any mind. I went back to work. So about maybe 3 days later, I'm sitting at home after work, and I open the door, and there's this old white guy. Looked maybe in his 60s, although he swears he's in his 50s then. And so he introduces himself as a psychiatrist from Emory called Dr. Funk. So he says he would like to talk to me, and he proceeds to walk into my apartment. Like, you guy, back off. So I don't let him in, and so we talk. We walk around my apartment complex then, and he, after many conversations and letting me know he'll be the one overseeing my case, he insists he wanted to take me somewhere. So I don't know about all of you, but growing up, we're told, don't go anywhere with strangers. So this is a white old guy, nothing personal to anyone old or white. But I wasn't going anywhere with him. But after a while, I guess he convinced me. I agreed. We left the end of that week to St. Jude Children's Hospital. Walking into that hospital, they cater for children between newborn all the way to about 18 who have all kinds of cancers. Some have no names. But what I got from those kids was the energy they had. Despite them fighting for this illness or illnesses, they still had so much willpower. And here I am, grown, and I didn't want to fight. So I spoke to a few doctors there. I met a few parents, and I actually got to see what day-to-day is for these kids. So I came back to Atlanta. So we were there the whole day. So finally came back to Atlanta, and I was determined. I was going to fight. I was going to give this 100%. So all this time, Dr. Frank is with me, and I come back, and they run different tests, and finally, yes, I had leukemia, which is, so I have ALL, which is a form of blood cancer. And my first thought was, okay, I have no way of paying this. How is this going to work? So I did let Dr. Frank know that I had no insurance. So he says to me, don't worry, we'll figure it out. And so when I was diagnosed, my cancer was pretty advanced. I needed to start chemotherapy right away. So I went ahead and started chemotherapy. All this time, I don't know how I was going to pay for this treatment. So I started chemo, which was harsh. About 2 weeks into it, Dr. Frank let me read a letter that was going to help me find some sort of aid to help me pay for this stays at the hospital, treatments, and everything that came with it. And when I read that letter, I was like, for a guy who's never left the US, this is what you think of Africa? It was, but I needed the help. So about a month after that, I got full sponsorship. I got medical aid to help me pay for my treatments. During my time at Emory and my sessions with chemotherapy, Dr. Frank and I had become really good friends. He checked on me, always attended most of my doctor's appointments, sat with me during my treatments, and I wanted to know at this point, I had not told my parents. I figured if I fight this, in about a year, I'll go home and say, I fought cancer, I was a hero. Right. It didn't work that way. So about 6 months into it, I let my sister know, and I told her it was time. I let my family know that I was unwell, but I needed them home with my mother so that she can have someone. When I finally called my mom and let her know, she said, you're going to beat this. You're going to come back. We're going to look back and be like, you beat cancer. To her, it wasn't a death sentence. So I continued fighting for about a year. I never hit remission. We went to 2 years. I was still battling leukemia. And at this point, I don't know what to expect. So I didn't think I was going to make it. I didn't think that I was going to pull through my first 2 years of treatment. Going home after treatment was the hardest part. The throwing up, the fatigue, the pain was the hardest part for me. I couldn't work as much. And by then, I was still living with my boyfriend. Okay, when I say living, he used to come 2-3 days. Just for purposes of, you know, my parents will see this. And potentials, anyway. So mom, he never stayed with me the whole time. So he comes home one day and I'm laid out in the bathroom. I am throwing up and he's like, what did you eat? And I remember yelling, I have cancer. He's like, wait, what? I thought you needed vitamins. And his whole face, he was so shocked, he didn't know what to say. So he sat there and didn't say a word. He didn't say, I'm sorry. He didn't say, what can I do to help? He just sat there. So the next day, I went to work and I came home and everything was gone. When I say everything, I mean the toothbrush, the 2 shirts. Everything was gone. So I thought he took his stuff to the dry cleaners. My thinking process was questionable, but it's gotten better. Anyway, so I was like, well, he's just taking it to the dry cleaners, he'll be back. Well, he never came back. That's that, and I'm still fighting. I think the hardest part for me at that time was coming home and finding all my stuff outside my apartment. No, don't wish it. I got home and all my belongings were out, sitting literally outside my apartment. Had I seen that coming? Absolutely. Did I think the problem would go away? Yes, I thought they're not going to evict a cancer patient, but how would they know I was a cancer patient if I didn't tell them? So, in the words of my friend Seda, ignore the problem, it will go away. So I did, and that was what happened. So I got in my car, and when I say car, little bitty thing, like fits maybe 2-3 things at most. And for 3 days, I was homeless. I spent the nights in my car. 3 nights, it felt like 3 months. Okay, well, maybe 3 years, okay. So in the course of this time, Dr. Frank had gone to my apartment, and that's when he found out I had been evicted. And he looked for me. He looked for me, he now told me this later. He went to the apartment and let them know the reason I could pay rent was because I was unwell. So she never said anything. Anyway, so he finally got in touch with me, and I stayed with them for 2 years. I lived with them for 2 full years. It was like living at home again. Where are you going? What time are you coming home? Yeah. No boyfriends. Well, we were not doing that again. So, to present, I have fought cancer off and on for 15 years. Through my journey with leukemia, I now travel around the country giving others hope. Dr. Frank believed in me. He didn't know me for Adam. Sorry, I hope there's no Adams here. But he didn't know me for Adam, but he took me in. He got me the best care I have received up to date. So I wanted to bridge that gap to others I may not even know. About 5 years ago, Mayo Clinic attended. They had my story and wanted to take me as one of their patients. So I am currently a patient at Mayo Clinic. What cancer has taught me is it's not a death sentence. Most of you know I'm a runner. Most, if you don't, now you know. I now run to raise awareness, mostly to leukemia and leukemia in children. I hope that I can inspire others, or I can bridge that gap that Dr. Franco also did. And against all odds, I know I will be cancer-free. So today I challenge you to bridge that gap with your family members, someone you may not know. Be a Dr. Frank to somebody else. Thank you.